now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Tim? What? Why did you have me come down to this dark basement? And why are you looking so pale? What's that froth coming out of your mouth? All that goo you're dribbling. I don't like that.
Come closer. This goo is just for you, Tim Swartz. It's just for you.
Oh, damn. I see you're talking like our knife-wielding ghost book. Looks like you're taking that a little too much to heart. You look like a full-fledged green gob of a demon right out of Ghostbusters. Wait, I need to find some holy water, a Bible, and a cross to keep you at bay.
Slime. It's all for you, Tim Swartz. Slime.
Okay. Whatever you say. Just get away from me. We better get back to the KCOR studios to see if our guest tonight can help us turn you back into a human. No, just get away from me, you slimy thing.
Slime. This goo is for you, Tim Swartz. Slime City.
Are you feeling any better now?
No. I tell you that the dust got to me down there in the basement. I really felt just very yucky. Why, was I saying something weird?
No, not at all. Just forget about it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I just get a little antsy and it can start acting a little strange. That's why I like to keep out of the basement. So tonight, I understand our subject is going to be a ghost, poltergeist.
Yeah, ghost, poltergeist, minions, whatever you want to call them.
Well, we did a book.
I hear one now.
Yeah. We did a book not too long ago. What was it? Knife wielding ghosts and demons and things like that. Maria had Deandrea had some experiences, and we had quite a few contributors on that, because not all poltergeist. Well, of course, we know poltergeists can be pretty noisy and destructive, but not as nasty as these SOBs, like in Ghostbusters. Were. But my family, I guess I have kind of a history of poltergeists. I was raised in a house, or was growing up in a house that had doors opening and closing, and lights going on and off. And I remember one time a pretty heavy plate slid across the table and fell onto the floor, but didn't break. Now, this is a little bit of a long story, and I don't want to take away from our guests, but my grandfather and my father's side of the family had a really bizarre experience that involved a headless horseman that he never talked about. Now, this took place in Shelbyville, Kentucky, home of the famous Chicken King, Colonel Sanders. And it was back many, many years ago. And apparently my grandfather was finishing up on the chores for the evening, and he saw this strange glow coming from behind a barn, and he followed it, the glow, and there was a soldier on a horse, except that it was minus a head. Now,
the horse or the soldier?
Oh, the soldier.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Well, we've never had a case of a headless a horse. I mean, that would be very unusual. Yeah, but he never liked to talk about it, because he was a very devout Baptist, and they believed that all things of that nature are probably sent from hell. And maybe he could be correct, but Kentucky was supposed to be a neutral state during the Civil War. But the Confederate Army tried to invade and take over Kentucky, and they had to call for the Union for help. So there were some skirmishes there, and some cannon fodder and so forth. So we think that perhaps a Confederate soldier was injured. I mean, drastically during some a battle, but have no way of proving it. But it is a Beckley urban legend. I would say.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, yeah. I've only told that story I think once or twice, and I think we have a humdinger of a story coming up this evening.
Oh yeah, well, tonight I'm happy that Keith Linder was gracious enough to make a return visit to Exploring the Bizarre. Keith was with us last year talking about his first book, The Bothell Hell House. Now, Keith is a IT professional from Texas living outside Seattle, Washington. Now, he's experienced mysterious ghostly activity on an almost daily basis after he and his girlfriend Tina moved into their new house. Now, these paranormal events nearly pushed Keith over the edge and was directly responsible for the breakup with his girlfriend, who I said was also living in the house with him. Now, two independent paranormal teams substantiated Keith's claims, but finally the time came when he decided that was enough was enough and moved out of the house and into an apartment. Now, the question that was left open when Keith was with us the last time was, will the spirits follow him? So now Keith's latest book about his experiences is Attachments, Poltergeist of Washington State. So maybe Keith can answer that question that was left open the last time he was on the show. So Keith, welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on this Thursday night. Feels good to be here.
Well, indeed. Hey, I have a question. Now, I'm sure that most people listening to our program have some inkling as to what a poltergeist is, but have you got a definition that's to your liking?
Actually, I kind of like the old, maybe current definition, even though I will admit, and I think I said it in my book, that it might be outdated, but it keeps it simple. And what it says is a poltergeist is basically a noisy ghost, even though we know now that poltergeists really don't fit into the category of ghosts, but we're splitting hairs there. But basically, a noisy ghost, and the word polter and geist, when you separate them, those are German words. One means ghost and the other one means a noisemaker. So therefore, there you have it. I mean, it keeps it simple in the sense of you can almost define poltergeist with one sentence. However, like I said, the description far exceeds what we know and what we define it as, because like I said, poltergeists do more than just make noise.
Well, I understand now. I have here probably one of the best scientific or parapsychological reports that I've ever seen involving a case, and it had quite a number of researchers involved in drafting this copy. It's called The Demons in Seattle Case, the Washington State Poltergeist. And this in itself, I mean, it's not a book, but the staple barely fits through all the pages, and it's very well illustrated with all the things that went on in the house where you lived. Now, was this house in the Seattle proper or in the suburbs, or how would you classify the neighborhood?
Seattle suburbs. Bothell, Washington is about 30 minutes northeast of Seattle.
Mm-hmm. And how did you? Did something occur like pretty much right away when you moved in, and how long ago was that?
Me and Tina moved in May 1st of 2012. And the interesting thing where this sort of parts ways with the current understanding of poltergeist is we begin experiencing phenomena right away. Most people who have poltergeist encounters have been in the location a while. There's been a change either in the home, be it financial, spiritual, mental, physical. in the home, including home renovations, that generally the rule of thumb is, or the theory is, that conjure up a poltergeist activity. Me and Tina are the contrary to the rule, in that when we moved in, this house was virtually brand new. It was built in 2008, and we started having phenomena on day one.
And okay, so now the among the phenomena that's reportedly occurred there were apparitions, apports, object manipulation, incendiary conditions, audible phenomena, physical interaction, apparitions, electrical disturbances, physical manifestations, and interactions. That's a mouthful. Let's okay. So the first night you had a little bit of hanky panky going on in the household. When did things really start to go bang bang bang?
The gloves came off big time, early spring of 2014. And by big time, I mean large furniture. I mean, you're looking at a kitchen armoire or a credenza went flying across the room. Not levitating, I mean flying across the room. We're talking about 10 to 12 feet.
And I mean, did you think to yourself, "Holy cow, there's got to be a spirit here," or did you think maybe there was some earth tremors going on?
No, we knew in 2014, when the credenza woke us up because it flown through the hallway. We knew the spirits were back. Summer of 2012, the year we moved in, we had come to the conclusion the house was haunted when the plant levitated by the TV. But we had local churches assisting us, trying to quiet the house. We wasn't the term poltergeist. We were totally oblivious to. We thought it was a kid ghost, a kid spirit, based on the kid cough that we heard on day one. But once again, that fits the MO of poltergeist, meaning things start off gradually, and then there's a crescendo. There's a peak of activity that's unbelievable to the naked eye. And that's what I just described to you, of the credenza flying across one side of the room to the other. And that happened multiple times. So when we saw that, we knew they were back. And just like other cases say, when they come back a second time, it's always worse than the previous encounter.
Well, now, okay, you say that the house was relatively new, that it was built in 2008?
Yes.
Okay, well,
I mean,
what the heck
2005.
kind of...
2005, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. What kind of poltergeist could be? I mean, why was the place spooked?
Well, if you saw the report, that was in the documentary, that was one of the perplexing questions for parapsychologist Steve Mera and his assistant Don Phillips, because they had been in other homes where poltergeist cases were running rampant. And here you have a relatively brand new house, and you don't have any incendiary conditions. You don't have any vexation of the house occupants, meaning there's no appearance of stress, strife, and whatnot that maybe, theoretically, that could be conjuring up PK or RSPK or telekinesis. So they had to sort of pivot and leave that paradigm alone for a while, because now, if you see the conclusion of Steve's report, and if you ask him, he said, "Yeah, this is a poltergeist environment." He'll clearly state that, but he said it looks to be linked to the land, what he classifies as LIH, which is land or localized intelligent haunting, because what you basically have is you have a phenomena happening in a home. And both teams found evidence inside and outside the home. They spent a lot of time researching the county records, the city records, going into the forest, to the creek behind the home, and got valuable EVPs, and got spirits to admit, EVP-wise, that, yeah, we're here, we've been here a while, and I'm paraphrasing, but we're sort of, doing what we do because of the land. It's the land, stupid, was what the message we got from the
the spirits. What's unique about the land? Are we talking about Native American sacred ground or
Yes.
burial
Yes.
ground or?
Yes. Bothell, Washington, and like I say, anything I say today, individuals listening tonight can Google and research online.
Yeah.
Bothell, Washington, aka Snohomish County. If you go back to the early mid 1800s, this was a heavily populated Native American area, like certain parts of the U.S. What makes
Uh-huh.
Bothell, Washington, interesting to this area or to this conversation is the level of smallpox outbreaks that took place in the mid 1800s, as well as the Puget Sound of Pacific Northwest, Washington, and where a lot of Native Americans, unfortunately, were put in mass graves.
Oh,
Were totally left alone to deal with their smallpox. And I put a lot of that
yeah.
in my second book. I spent a lot of time, maybe 4 chapters in book 2,
Yeah.
talking about the
Now,
Native
what
American.
what is the book called so people can Google it?
Yeah, the second book is called Attachments dash Poltergeist of Washington State, Part 2. The first word being attachments, dealing with the question of was I followed and what's going on in my new location. So it felt fitting to name it that, the word
Yeah.
attachments. So yeah, Poltergeist of Washington State, Part 2 is its subtitle.
Well, yeah, Washington State seems to have a history of some pretty weird shenanigans there. You've got, of course, Kenneth Arnold's UFO sightings up
Yeah.
by Mount Rainier in 1947 that started all the flying saucer business. And a few days before, actually, was the Maury Island incident where this object supposedly exploded and some shag came down and Sly came down and killed the dog on the boat, and
Yeah.
the Men in Black showed up, and all that. And then in our own book that we just came out recently with UFOs Deja Vu, we talk about all these places around the country, some of which are on the Native American land. We mentioned the Yakima,
Yeah.
Washington, where they actually even built a UFO skywatch tower where people were watching these things on a regular basis. These glowing orbs coming, in and out. So that they're coming out of some other dimension or whatever. Now,
Wow.
are you satisfied that these poltergeists are deceased spirits, or could they be some other sort of phenomena?
Well, for this house and this house particularly, it's really several things going on, and I say that based on the evidence uncovered. This house had a percentage of residual activity, stone tape theory activity. There was a lot of course, malevolent activity, some demonic, definitely poltergeist activity. I mentioned in my book about multiple apparition sightings.
Mm.
Um, you said at the beginning of your show about minions, and I
Yeah,
talked
yes.
very detail about the minions in the book, who I listed as having 85% responsibility for the activity that we had. But if you just take the sum of it all, they all will fit under the banner of poltergeist. Once again, going to the simplest definition out there. But it was just a whole lot of stuff based on the EVPs and the evidence that not I found, but the researchers themselves.
Yeah.
And Steve Mayer has his own assessment, and when asked, he will tell you it was nothing like he's ever encountered in previous investigations. Don Phillips the same way,
Yeah.
in the sense that you just have a bowl of different phenomena that really goes against the paradigm of what we think poltergeists are.
Now, some have some of these events been videotaped?
Yes, a lot.
Uh,
Steve and Dawn, through their investigative methods, with Nick Kyle, who was then the president of the SSPR out of Scotland, were able to capture some of the shadowy figures, and I think that was in your report, maybe a couple of
yeah.
pages, where you see shadows in the frames, about 21 odd frames of
Hmm.
shadows, which I saw with my own naked eye, so I was able to vouch for it immediately, where their infrared devices picked up these shadows in my hallway, going left to right, right to left on the camera. And individuals can see that in the report. They can see it on my YouTube channel, and they can see it in both books. And that's, like I said, that's who I refer to as the minions, because they're about a foot in height. They're very opaque. They're very charcoal black, I call them. They're about as black as a trillion midnights. And there's a lot of them. I can tell you right now, there's a lot of them. There was a lot of them.
Are they all acting in consortium? Is that the right word? I mean,
in unison. Yes.
Yeah.
In unison, yes.
That's what I'm trying to get out. Yeah.
We're very. I mean, they're organizing some of my team members at work, but they're very unison. They're very. Each one knows its individual role. They don't stray or deviate from what I call the plan, which is to raise hell for the house occupants. And like I said, they were responsible for 85% of the activity, meaning the burning Bibles, the wall writings, the burning cross on the wall, the objects being thrown, the poking and the prodding.
Yeah. Well, our close associate here, Paul Eno. Now, he's been involved. He was in the beginning days associated with the Warrens. But I don't know. He said that the more you brought out the holy water and the crosses and the Bibles, the more irritated and obnoxious the spirit got. And sometimes you can use a little bit of humor and stuff to persuade them to be less violent or valiant in their attempts to scare people. The holy water and all just seem to egg them on.
Yeah, it's like throwing gasoline on the fire where malevolent spirits are concerned, because we try holy water, you try Bibles, you try crosses, and they just turn all that stuff around and throw it back at you. And
I mean, do you see this? I mean, do you see this as a religious thing, as being involved with Satan, or is that just a kind of a cover up, a camouflage?
I really think, based on what I know about the land underneath the house and how the Native Americans were treated. Keep in mind, when the Native Americans, most of them were illy treated because they were not adherent to Christianity. So you have to think about it. It's either convert or die. And here I come, a century later with my Bible and my cross, and they're not having that.
Well, here comes our guy with his cross.
So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Now back to exploring the bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal. Your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. I'm Tim Swartz. Tonight, our guest is Keith Linder. Now, Keith is the author of the two books, The Bothell Hill House and Attachments, Poltergeist of Washington State. Both of these books deal with his experiences living in a super uber haunted house. It's like the penultimate of haunted houses. So now, Keith, we alluded to this at the beginning of the program. You did move from this house. So was that it? After you moved, everything was nice and quiet, and your life is now hunky dory, or did these things decide that they liked you too much and decided to go with you?
Oh, they decided they liked me too much, and they sort of beat me there, matter of fact, because in keeping with the theme of, 4 years prior of activities starting the day we moved in or the day we got the keys to the home, the water puddle phenomenon, which fits under Poltergeist reported cases of mysterious water leaking from the ceiling and the surface is dry and there's no known source. That happened on day 2 of moving in, and I put the report that the maintenance guys and the landlord and the tenant and the manager, because they responded to my 911 call of water leakage. It was early morning. But yeah, that was on day 2 of this weird water appearing phenomena, dripping down the walls, dripping down the ceiling. And I took that as a message of, hey, we're here. You can't shake us. You got a smaller place, so we're all going to be kind of crowded together. But we're here, and yeah.
Well, so is is the activity as powerful as was
No,
going on in the original house?
no, and the activity. That's a good question because the activity wasn't powerful even when Steve and Dawn were there, and even when I was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I would put it at a level 1 compared to a level 5. The activity upon me leaving the home, talking about the Bothell home, was about a level 1. The activity when I moved to my new location was significantly lower than that. And that's understandable in the sense of it's just me there. One thing I notice about poltergeists or malevolent spirits, they really like it when there's 2 or more. One person, yeah, okay, but a lot of the phenomena they did to me and Tina, we helped them indirectly. Me and Tina, just our presence, our energy, our synergy. It's easy to pivot off one and the other. And I noticed when it was just, even when I was living in a home a year and a half by myself, because Tina moved out a year and a half before I did, I noticed the activity died down significantly. But there was no knives being thrown anymore, no fires, no Bibles being taken or burnt. However, there were still what I talk about even to this day. That was probably the worst feeling of all, and I still go through this, is the poking and the prodding while sleeping, the heartbeats, the phantom heartbeats underneath both bed and pillow, even now. And I've since moved from that location to a newer location, and that happens in hotels I travel about in, on business, the poking and the prodding, the sheet tugging. The electrical issues have never stopped, so that phenomena, even electrical issues in my car. Occasionally at work, we had a phenomena at work last week that was weird, and my IT guys and people I work with who know this story, who know my ordeal, even they admit that's just weird. You know, you're in the conference room giving a PowerPoint and things just go haywire or go weird. Elevator malfunction. They got to call the technician down. You're talking about a high-rise building and a $5 million elevator cart, and the technician scratching his head about the electrical issues in the elevator. So those things, yeah. Is it worse or less worse? I don't like to compare it to the Bothell house because it was a different dynamic. This dynamic is just me by myself or an occasional group of friends, like a house party or happy hour or patio barbecue. But if you ask me which is worse, I would have to say probably based on the level of spontaneity and the surprise, the Bothell house is always going to edge out what I go through now, because fires, large objects being thrown, chef knives, your house exploding, light fixtures, that went on for about 3.5 years, and we lived in the house for 4 years. That went on for at least 75% of the time while in the home. This is no comparison to that, but at the same time, it gets on your nerve. It's more of an irritant, you know? I call it it's like a gnat or a mosquito that you can't get rid of, or a fly. Yeah, fly.
Which is probably what they're trying to do. You know, irritate you. You know, you you have an emotion, a strong emotion. And they feed off of that. That's one of the things that Paul Eno says, is that these things feed off of the emotions that they elicit from you.
Oh, definitely. And I can tell, and I'm a calm, cool, collective guy. I try to be, and I could tell it might be of an irritant to them because, like I said, there's no Tina or other girlfriend to pivot off of to make it easier to raise the frustration level versus just one person. I mean, it's hard to be mad at yourself when you live alone. It's hard to curse yourself out It's hard to, scream at the wall or ceiling when you're living by yourself. So I know they're trying to, they would love to go to that next level. I just saw Star Wars last week. They would love for me to go dark side. Go dark side. Go, yeah, give it to us. But one person living alone makes that hard to do. At least I think so.
Right, and this phenomena has also kind of followed other people that you've associated with, friends, things like that. They'll find that their own house will have some things happen.
Yeah, it's run a few potential Tina replacements off, and I listed those examples in my book in the sense of people who I meet, trying to get my life together and back the way I had it prior, have their own stories to tell of when they get back to their respective houses, or if they show a what I call a significant interest in my story or my case. It takes them within 48 hours or 72 hours to have phenomena happening at their place. Some have seen going back to the minions with their own eyes at my place. And yeah, seeing is really believing, because I can tell you two of the individuals, I'm talking about girls I've dated previously, actually said that, hey, not going to scare me. I don't believe in that stuff. Or, hey, I believe in that stuff, but not going to scare you. My faith is what it is. Not going to do it until they see the minion, what I call the minions, face to face, or when they experience phenomena face to face in their own house environment. And I try to keep a positive look at it and say I understand when I get the Dear John letter saying, hey, I gotta, I'm not dealing with this, and that's fine. But they have experienced phenomena, and that falls once again under the that's why I named the second book Attachments, because I wanted the reader to truly understand on many different levels what that means and what it means to have an attachment. At least for me, it's not so much, it just happens in his house. No. If you read my second book, you're going to walk away understanding it happens at home, work travel, vacation, dating, out and about, running errands, all that. And I think the word attachments would be the proper way to define that.
So now, do you think that this is going to be something, and I hate to say this, that you're going to have to deal with for the rest of your life, that somehow you have become a marked man, so to speak, and that these things are like, hey, we love this guy and we're going to be with him, till the very end.
Yeah, well, I forgot that quote. We're to the very end, but I tried to look at if there is a silver lining to that, because you're right. I have had that thought, and honestly, I think I am going to have them to the very end. I see no indication as to why they would taper off or leave, and I've tried everything, but in the meantime, what I can do while they're here is document the phenomenon when it happens, reach out to individuals who study this stuff and give them what I document, and try to give people advice as to what not to do. And for me personally, just live my life as I was living it always. I sort of think that. And on the flip side, the silver lining or the response or the positive feedback I've got from individuals after reading book one and now after reading book two is like, yeah. I mean, the Australian Parapsychological Institute recently just said that Keith Linder's story, Keith Linder's book, Keith Linder's evidence, and all the evidence compiled about this case has really turned poltergeist phenomena, or what we think it is, on top of his head. So if it's going to be studied and redefined and analyzed, I view that as lemonade versus lemons. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, and Steve Mera and his team. I mean, not only they came to your house two times, which is fantastic. I mean, and they really did such an excellent job. Compiling the evidence. I mean, they spent. I mean, how long each time? At least a week. They
Yeah.
were there. Which you see so many of these, so-called, UFO, I mean, ghost hunters, and I mean they're there for a night and then they go away. But Steve and his group, I mean, they went all out in this investigation.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because Steve and Dawn lived in the house 2.5 weeks. They came January and April of 2016. Before they even came, we were doing a series of conference calls, interviews, and evaluations for about 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So they were prepping before the trip. And like you said, they came from the UK. They came twice. And they lived in the home each time they came. And they bought Nick Kyle the second time. And they gave you, or the world, I should say, because the report is free and available, the 60-plus page report of everything they did. And they shared it to anybody who asked, and it's easily accessible. But you're right, it's a difference between investigating and ghost hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things you see on TV today, a lot of things you see on entertainment or whatever, that's just ghost hunting. You go into a house with a flashlight, a K2 meter. Aha, I'm looking for a ghost. And, you find that one shred of evidence, might not be evidence, but your thirst has been quenched. You take your picture of your orb or your dust particle and you're good. You're good. However, the house occupants are still dealing with the problem. And Steve and Dawn were mature enough and had enough knowledge to know poltergeists don't respond on cue. You don't snap your fingers and say, come out, wherever you are. They had to go after the evidence. The spirits were not going to give anybody anything for free. You have to go and get the evidence and know what is evidence and what is not. Steve classified 424 or 430 EVPs of Class A, Class B, and a majority, which are, in my mind, if you ask me, or good EVPs, they threw away because anything below a Class B, you're going to take into the community. It's going to be debatable. And we don't even just deal with those. We want to deal with the ones that Class A, Class B, that have a high probability of, no matter who you give it to, people are going to understand those are unknown or unexplained voices on voice recorders. And I would say they probably threw away more EVPs, the ones you see, or probably more quality than the ones you see on TV, they threw away and were left with 430 something EVPs, which is still a lot. And like I said, it's easy accessible, and people can access those EVPs in both books of mine.
Okay. Well, I'm looking here at all the things that are on YouTube in reference to you and this case. Can you pick one or two videos, perhaps, that people who are interested into delving into this further would find the most? Let's see. What's the word that I'm thinking of? Most conclusive. There you go.
Yeah.
Conclusive. Yeah.
Yeah, good question, because I want people to do this. And this is, like I said, this is free. Anybody listen to me now can go to YouTube and type in Demons in Seattle Uncovered. And I know some listeners out there probably say, this guy is not, I saw him on Ghost Adventures and Zach Baggins ripped him to shreds. Well, the name of that Ghost Adventures episode was called Demons in Seattle. So I want individuals to watch Demons in Seattle. If they forgot about it because it came out a couple years ago, rewatch that. And then watch Demons in Seattle Uncovered. And you can see the investigative methods comparison is different as night and day. And you will understand.
You mean Zach actually cut somebody down? He found the place that he couldn't find phenomena going on? That's unheard of. I can't believe that.
Yeah, so Stephen Dawn's documentary, like I said, which is an hour and a half long and covers their 2.5 week investigation. Individuals can watch that one and then make up their own minds and understand about poltergeist phenomena itself. Also, if they also want to go a little bit further than that learning, just type in Keith L or Keith Linder in YouTube, and you automatically get to my channel, where there are over 600 videos and 5 mini documentaries explaining about the wall analysis. We found out what that substance was made of. There's an hour and a half video showing how I was able to discern what that black gooey stuff on my wall.
So we have real slime. We have real slime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our little beginning wasn't too out of hand. I knew it all. Yeah. I knew it all along. I got Tim right.
Black slime. Yeah. Black. Like what's that? Oh yeah, hillbilly black oil, Texas tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was one guy in England. Remember, he was investigating UFOs, and I guess he was slime because didn't he choke on the slime or something, Tim? There was the black ooze, I think. Right.
Yeah. He was in Poland and started, I guess, puking that stuff up and ended up passing away. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of the Bell Witch. Remember the Bell Witch Poltergeist case where the spirit gave John Bell the black oil.
We got almost as many books as you got YouTube videos.
I see.
We got a Bell Witch book, right, Tim? We did that a couple of years ago.
I studied
very
that
colorful
case
cover. Yeah. In fact, we had somebody on our show one time, Tim, that purported to be related to the Bell Witch or something, to the owner of the.
Supposedly.
Well, I won't say anything negative because I never do. But the show on the AME or whatever it was didn't last very long. The Bell Witch lasted longer than the show did, I think.
Yeah, that haunting lasted a while.
Well, one of the things, Keith, that I found fascinating about this case was one of the EVPs that really showed that, these things were intelligent and were actively observing what was going on because they were fascinated at one point by some of the equipment that was being brought in.
Yeah, that's on the documentary I just mentioned of Stephen Dawn in the hallway, and they're setting up equipment, and they already got the listening devices laced throughout the house. And upon review of their video, they capture these voices, or they hear these voices, and it's 2 male voices, and these voices are having a conversation, like they're murmuring, like it's a camera, and they're saying words like night cam. And then another video in my second book where they're in the bathroom, Stephen Dawn, you hear the same male voices saying, he's laying down some cable. And the other voice is telling the other spirit to take one of the devices. Take one, go lift one of these. And they're so crystal clear, intelligent, deliberate. They're very observant. And some of their word phrases you and me and other humans don't use, like we don't say night cam, we don't say image detector. They were talking about the infrared devices in the room or in the environment, but we don't call those devices night cam or infrared or image detector. But that's what the voices were saying, and they're in Irish accents, or they're in a distinct accent, because you can hear Stephen Dawn's British accent, and then you hear these voices underneath theirs that are total opposite of that. And like you said, very intelligent, very deliberate, very concise. And just imagine me and Tina for 3 years setting up our own camera, not knowing what we're doing or going about our daily lives, and these spirits giving commentary amongst themselves about what we're doing and creating havoc for us to live through. So it really, when I heard those voices by Steve, those really blew me away.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we only have about 3 minutes left in the show, Keith. So why don't you let our audience know where they can find your books, their titles, and to check out your YouTube channel and all of these fantastic videos that are out there.
Sure. Once again, I want to say, just like I said, thank you for both of you guys for having me on tonight. It's good to chat with you. But 2 books, those who are not familiar with book 1, The Bothell Hell House, on Amazon. It's part 1. It's 4-year account, 4-year ordeal of me and Tina in the home. Attachments, Poltergeist of Washington State, part 2, picks up where that book left off. It picks up with me having 2 remaining months in the home. There's 3 questions that I answered. Number 1, why is the house haunted? What was the wall analysis made out of, or where the wall analysis come from? And will I be followed? So individuals can check those 2 books out. And like I said, there are links in the video. It's an interactive book for Kindle and paperback. It's very interactive. There are links in the evidence, the EVPs, the audio, the reports. I mean, there's so many reports in both books to where once you read the book, you now have homework assignment of your own that you can
it's a massive amount of research. Very, very, very well done research. Tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous.
So, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's on Amazon.
Yeah. Anyway, I do want to remind our folks here that the show will be archived shortly, so you can listen to it again if you missed anything. And don't forget our YouTube channel, Mr. UFO Secret Files, and our own knife-wielding ghost. That's the name of it, Tim, right? I'm sure.
That's right. Thanks, Keith.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You betcha. Talk to you soon. Wonderful ghost. Poltergeist. Just demonic in all its sides.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on Exploring the Bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the Bizarre.